glorious as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome back to Skull Rock Podcast, a show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of your favorite Disney films, your favorite attractions, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming and what's playing in theaters. Hello, I'm Aljon Go, lifelong Disney, Marvel, Star Wars fan, and pop culturist. And you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, and author, and I'm broadcasting from Los Angeles this week. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our very own Skull Rock YouTube channel. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. I'm tripping over this.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm tripping too because it's the holiday season and this is the week of Christmas and happy Hanukkah to all of our friends this past week. Actually, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm losing track of time, Dave.
No, you're right. Hanukkah began a week ago, and it's ending.
Yeah,
and Christmas is hitting on Thursday, and it's just been as every year, Aljon, the holidays just creep up on us all.
It creeps up on you, and we just celebrate. I mean, shoot, I just came home from being away for a couple of weeks, China and Japan, and then here I am now, and I'm taking a couple of weeks off again after just going into work for a week. And I don't even know what day it is half the time, Dave. I know.
I hear you. I hear you on that.
Yeah.
I have to say this has been a terrible week. And it's so sad that a lot of these things happen right before the holidays.
Certainly.
I mean, aside from the sad news of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, Eddie Sotto, an Imagineer, he's a former guest of the Skull Rock podcast. He was a friend, and just a wonderful guy. He passed away last Wednesday, and we're going to do a little tribute by rebroadcasting his interview.
Absolutely.
Because he was just an all-around great guy. 100%.
We're going to go down memory lane and go back to June 20th of 2022. When we had Eddie Sotto, at the time, Vice President of Concept Design for Walt Disney Imagineering, and what a tremendous talent and all-around great guy. And I know that he contributed to one of your books, Dave, so...
Yeah, I'll tell you something. He, I didn't know him that well. I knew him, but we never really worked directly together. But I reached out to him and asked him if he would review the manuscript for my House of the Future book. And he said, absolutely yes, right out of the gate. There was no hesitation. He read the manuscript. He came back to me with a lot of really great compliments, which was good to hear. And he also had a couple of notes, which I took to heart. And then he gave me a wonderful jacket quote. I couldn't be more grateful to have people like that reviewing my books.
Certainly, and we're honored to have Eddie as part of our show back in the day, and we'll definitely be playing his unabridged interview. So we've got it here.
And, as our audience has grown, I know that there's listeners who may not have heard that interview back in 2022.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're going to put it back out there because I want people to hear in Eddie's own words, what his career was like.
100%. And go back in the vault, check out that show, check out this interview, of course, but you can check out our entire vault of shows there at skullrockpodcast.com. All right, Dave, before we get into it, let's talk about the best of 2025 films, streaming, what have you. Dave, what's on your list?
Well, Aljon, I have to tell you that one of the films that I thoroughly enjoyed and was really looking forward to was Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. This was the eighth and final film in the series. It was released in May of 2025. And it continues the story from Dead Reckoning as Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, and his IMF team fight a rogue AI called the Entity. I just thought this was an incredible action movie, summer action film, and it was a great way to end this series of Mission Impossible films. It really was. I thoroughly enjoyed it in the theaters. I'm going to watch it again. It's streaming on Paramount Plus. And I just thought it was one of the best films for me. There were other films like Superman. Superman, I was a little disappointed in, but I thought it was a reasonably well done film. And there were some other films I saw that I don't know. I thought it was a bit of a weaker year, if you will, across the board. There was inconsistencies. One of the highlights of the holidays was seeing the second part of Wicked. And I thought, and I talked about this a few weeks ago when I saw it. I thought that was an okay film. The production design is off the charts. Costumes, just the music, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Avino were just fantastic. I do think that the first Wicked was the best of the two. But what I liked about the second one was the way they introduced the Scarecrow, the Lion, the Tin Man, and Dorothy into the mix and sort of bring you up to the great MGM musical, The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
So, but that to me, was on the big screen. I went to see a lot of films this year, but not a lot of them stand out.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in the Bruce Springsteen film. So it was a bit of an inconsistent year as far as I'm concerned. On the smaller screen, there's a lot of great shows. But why don't you talk about the movies you enjoyed this year?
Well, Dave, I think you summed it up the best, saying that it was inconsistent. There wasn't just banger after banger after banger, and I thought it would be for sure, especially when it came to the MCU. You talk about Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, into a year of, where there was like a lot of action going on, in the theaters, and it was inconsistent. I thought that Brave New World fell short. I think it was just trying to accomplish a lot. The Thunderbolts was great in my opinion, although I don't think a lot of people saw it by comparison. And Fantastic Four had a lot of grandiose things, but also fell a little flat for me. I think at first I was very enamored with the whole look of the entire film and what it was trying to do. But, when you come to what is the rewatchability aspect of films, to me, I think Thunderbolts is much more watchable, and holds up over multiple viewings versus the other two. But, once again, this past year was kind of a stumbling block for Disney, because as good as Lilo and Stitch was for kind of an elevated Disney Plus, program, Elio wasn't well received, and I saw it and I thought it was okay. And Snow White fell flat on its face. Freakier Friday was okay. Tron I have yet to see, because I have really no, I want to be able to go and see it. And Dave, I think that's something you saw in the theater, right? So
I did see Tron, and I actually liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was well done. I thought it was an enjoyable film. I thought it was a great extension of that franchise. I felt like it had a great soundtrack, great visuals. and I enjoyed watching it. So I
Yeah.
know it didn't do as well out there as it should have, but it's still, to me, I thought it was a good film.
Yeah, I think
And
maybe, yeah.
by the way, you mentioned the Thunderbolts. I should have mentioned them as well. I like the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I thought it was a very well done film, and I thought it was done in a way that was different than most Marvel films in terms of the cinematography and the colors that they used. Of course, the acting was great. Florence Pugh is an amazing actress, and the whole ensemble was really well done. So I think Disney kind of hedged their bets this year, but where they bet on really big was Zootopia 2, and that's an outstanding film, and I'm looking forward to seeing it with our kids, and I can't wait to review that for a future episode. But in terms of the other box office stuff, yeah, Superman was good. Was it something to write home about? I would say it was just kind of fair. It was a fair outing. But where I think the box office shined for me was really in the horror genre, as you would expect me to say. Weapons, I thought, was an amazing film, and I think one that this was definitely not the splat pack horror type of year for horror, but it was definitely more substantial in many different ways. Pardon the pun, and you'll see where I'm going with this. So Weapons was great, body horror, dark comedy, but on so many different levels. Same with Sinners, as I said, probably my favorite film of this year, with an amazing performance helmed by one of my favorite actors, Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, the anchor of this Ryan Coogler film, and Ryan Coogler is just, excuse me, Ryan Coogler is just firing all cylinders in this tour de force, in my opinion. One part horror movie, but another part just kind of a era film. It was definitely kind of one of those, folk films at first, a period drama, but ends up going psychological, which I love. And speaking of psychological, The Substance. I thought The Substance was a great independent horror film. Demi Moore's comeback, along with Margaret Qualley, who's an amazing actress, and Dennis Quaid, standout performances in this kind of a foreign film twist from director and writer Coralie Farragut, which is absolutely amazing, great storytelling. So, and I also thought that 28 Years Later was very good as well. But I would put Sinners and The Substance and The Thunderbolts as my favorite films of this year, kind of a dark horse year, if you will.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It was a dark horse year.
Yeah.
I got more enjoyment on the small screen this year.
Yeah, tell us about it, Dave.
I have to say one of my all-time favorite shows is Slow Horses.
Yeah.
And I believe it's in its fourth or fifth season on Apple TV, and with stars Gary Oldman, and really, I think a terrific show. People should check that out. Also on the small screen, The Diplomat on Netflix is fantastic. Just an absolutely fantastic show. I'd also say Chad Powers over on Hulu. If you haven't seen Chad Powers, it's hilarious. It's really a well done show, and it was picked up for season 2. So go get invested in that. Landman over on Paramount Plus, along with Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount Plus. Those are two high quality shows that I've really enjoyed. And over on HBO Max, if you haven't seen it, The Pit is an incredible show. Mm-hmm. I think it's as close as you're going to get to what it's like in a ER.
Yes.
And Noah Wiley does a fantastic job as the lead doctor in the emergency room.
Right on. I like that.
What about you? I'm just rattling through some of these. I don't want to go into too many of them because we could sit and talk for 10 or 15 minutes about it.
Oh no, sure. I
But
think Stranger Things is great. So,
yeah,
I
I'm
think
going to catch up on that during the holidays.
same.
So
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, Stranger Things is very consistent. Storytelling is off the charts in my opinion, and you fall in love with the characters. I mean, I can't tell you, it's been years. I mean, this series has just taken a hold of pop culture, taken a hold on a whole generation of viewers, really catapulting Netflix into the next level, in my opinion. I mean, this made Netflix like the must have. In my opinion, and this has been season 5 over the course of what 6-7 years, So we've seen the cast grow up. They've catapulted not only Netflix's dominance in streaming over that time, because it has been a streaming war, but all the kid stars are all grown up and superstars in their own right. So kudos to the cast and crew of Stranger Things. I think this is great. I'm looking forward to the finale here after the new year. Also, Wednesday continues to be very consistent. I like it. The Last of Us as well. Those two series are great. Shout out for Andor. And then all the Boys series and Gen V. And I know once again, it just kind of takes a superhero genre and turns it on its head. But I think Amazon did well by not pulling its punches. It continues to be satirical. It happens to be topical. It happens to have an amazing cast and great writers. And for a series that deals with, a lot of superhero kind of issues, it didn't seem like it let the superhero grandiose stage of it all kind of take center stage. It dealt with the most important things: characters, character development, the flawed characters, which is why we love Marvel so much. But I think over the course of this past arc for Marvel, it became more about the superpowers and less about the super people. Right?
do you feel like Marvel is regrouping now?
Yes, I think overall we're seeing Disney overall work through the issues of the pandemic and the writer's strike and a bunch of different things, pushing a lot of content. And this is the horrible thing about where we are in in streaming and in cinema right now. And this is for me as a consumer. You are the film person, Dave. You are the creator. And so I yield to you on these things. But, content is what creators in YouTube put out, in my opinion. It's great content, right? We should not treat the stuff that is entertaining to us as content. It should just be like awesome art, like film and TV series that are put together with great writers, great cinematographers, great soundtrack and sound people, like all those things. I mean, they call it a craft for a reason. And the fact that we constantly talk about it as content just demeans it, in my opinion. And that I feel like the studio system, because of the pandemic, has been churning out content for content's sake, and I hate that. So I think we're going through the quality control now of saying, let's get back to making things big and grandiose and cinematic instead of just churning out just this chum that we've been seeing, with a lack of quality, a lack of pure vision, a lack of whatever storytelling, and it's just putting out a bunch of milquetoast stuff for people to consume. And I hate that. I want craft. I want great stories. I want amazing things that stick with you. And this has led to the inconsistency of this year, is that we're working through all that pandemic crap, and now we're coming out the other end with some really finely crafted stuff.
I think that's a good assessment. I really do.
That means a lot, Dave, coming from you.
No, I really do think that's a good assessment, and it's valid, because I think, when these streaming services first started, it was an arms race, and they were throwing tons of money at it, and they were just trying to, grind stuff out. And there was some really terrible shows that got put on the air. We talked about some of them here. Some of them were almost laughable.
Mm-hmm.
One show show, though, that I do want to mention that recently dropped, Aljon, at the end of October was a show called Down Cemetery Road.
Oh, okay.
And it is it's based on a novel by Mick Herron, who's also the creator of Slow Horses.
Ah.
And the premise of this is after a house explodes in Oxford, England, art restorer Sarah Tucker, who's played by Ruth Wilson, who's terrific, becomes obsessed with finding the missing girl, leading her to Emma Thompson, who's a private investigator, and a conspiracy involving presumed dead people who are not dead, obviously. This is a show that starts out, I think, a little bit slow, but it has an incredible cast led by Emma Thompson and Ruth Wilson. And you've got Adam Godley, Darren Boyd, Adil Akatar, who's a familiar face. He's a absolutely terrific British actor. Again, all-star cast of people, and I think that this is one of those shows that's worth giving 2 or 3 episodes a chance on, because I think most people, once you get into it, once you get past episode 2, I think you'll start to really get into this. But it is a slow build. Rotten Tomatoes gives us 79%. IMDb gives us 7.1 out of 10. I've enjoyed it so far, so I would recommend it to people if you haven't had a chance, and that's on Apple Plus.
Love it.
The one thing I have to say about Apple Plus is they've got some quality shows on there. And I would recommend people, if you haven't gotten Apple Plus, you might want to check it out even for a month to see some of these great shows. Again, Slow Horses is probably at the top of the heap for me, along with The Diplomat.
There you go. That's good stuff, Dave. I appreciate that. I think, too, that I am signed up for Apple Plus for this year, and I'm going to start trying to consume some of that. See if I'm going back to it. I'm going to try to get into it, over the holiday season. So that is something that I'm into as well. And let me also throw this in there. I think rock music documentaries are staging a huge comeback. I think, as I mentioned, the Beach Boys was very good. There's a Beatles content that has been lovingly done for Disney Plus. The Yacht Rock documentary, the Bon Jovi documentary, both on Hulu, have been amazing. The tragedies regarding Woodstock have been also very good on the Trainwreck TV show on streaming series on Netflix in terms of documentaries. So there's a lot of really good stuff out there, and I think it's going to continue to build.
Let's not forget about the Led Zeppelin documentary.
Oh, the Led Zeppelin documentary was tremendous, y'all. Sony Pictures did a great job on that. And I think the We Are the World documentary, too, this past year was amazing on Netflix. So I'm looking forward to seeing more behind the scenes of some of my, Gen X favorite stuff, or, the stuff that's coming out, because, that is, I think that is rife for people to tell those stories. And I think you're going to see more of those type of music documentaries hit the big screen in big ways, like Led Zeppelin, in the coming year. So I think that trend is going to continue. I think biopics, much like Rocket Man from several years ago, the Elvis film, I think we have that new Neil Diamond film that's going to be coming out. I think those are all going to be great. I think Hugh Jackman looks to have another fantastic year next year with his Neil Diamond film, as well as the Marvel, end of the year Marvel Doomsday film that's coming out, where I'm sure Marvel is going to put Deadpool and Wolverine in that film. I'm almost certain about it, to bring people through the turnstile. So it should be really cool, Dave.
The Neil Diamond film you're talking about is Song Sung Blue.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's opening this
weekend.
I think it may have even opened.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's going to be holidays. Yeah, it's going to be good for the holidays. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I think we're going to see the stories of big stars like Whitney Houston. I think over the next few years they're going to adapt something really big for her because she's such a legend in this, and it's such a tragic end. So I think you're going to see some of that stuff coming out soon. So,
Yeah, and by the way,
uh-huh.
I do want to mention, Aljon, that this past week the Academy announced a short list of animated short films,
Oh yeah.
along with other categories. But Aaron Blaise, who's been a guest on the Skull Rock podcast,
Yep.
his short film Snow Bear has made the short list. Uh,
Ah.
so what I wound up doing over the last I don't know, several weeks leading up to the vote was watching some 80 short films.
Oh my goodness, Dave, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
I know,
Oh
and I have to tell you, it really it takes a lot to do it because some of these films are just some of the short films that are submitted for consideration are just awful. They run the gamut. They run the gamut from incredible to terrible.
yeah,
And you have to sift through them and come up with what you think is the 15 best.
yeah.
You know?
Well,
And that's the short list. And out of those 15, they'll get the five nominations for best animated short film.
there you
So
go.
just shout out to Aaron Blaise and his Snow Bear short, which is terrific. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, they're streaming it now online. So just go online and search for Snow Bear, and you'll find it. And it's a 5-6 minute short film. It's worth watching. I think it's very well done.
I think that's great. I think that the Skull Rock podcast / Disney alumni are putting out some major moves, not only with Aaron Blaise, but I understand that Mushka got picked up from Andreas Deja, got picked up on a streamer. I think the Bancroft brothers are doing some bang up work out there that's being fairly well received, in the box
Yeah,
office, and looking forward to
and
getting more of their
and John
independent films.
Musker,
John Musker,
you know.
yeah. Yeah.
John Musker's another one who's and there's I think a bunch of other animators out there that are working on short films. So I think that this is a terrific time for indie animated short films.
I think Disney would be well off to double down on what is on brand for them, which is animation, and give a platform to a lot of these independent quality films and give them a platform to be showcased on Disney Plus. And I think they should do it. I think they should go out there and put it out there and kind of help that industry along. And I think
I
people
agree.
would love to see it and put like this really cool stamp. It's they have this the Fox Searchlight banner for independent, almost independent films that they have are releasing, and I think they'd do well for the industry if Disney were able to put something like that together for independent animators, quality
Yeah,
stuff. Well, I love this,
absolutely.
Dave. It's been a very inconsistent year, but a great year for content for us. As I go back on saying content, because that is what we do, is content,
Yeah.
off the cuff and discussion about what's happening and what's hip, if you will. We appreciate the feedback from our listeners, and feel free to let us know what your top picks of this past year were, and we can discuss it when we reconvene for Skull Rock Podcast in 2026 and what you're looking forward to in 2026. We would love to hear from you on that.
Obituary roll call.
All right, Dave. So before we get into our remembrance of Eddie Sotto, the former senior vice president of concept design of Imagineering, did you want to say any words of that, or do we want to reserve that for the beginning of his interview that we're going to
Yeah,
rebroadcast?
let's go. Let's do that at the beginning of when we introduce his interview.
Okay.
But I mean, I think that aside from Eddie, the tragic news this past week was Rob and Michelle Reiner being murdered in their homes.
It really was very sad indeed. I mean, Rob Reiner, legend in this business. I think a lot of us got into Rob Reiner in All in the Family
Yeah,
as Meathead. Iconic character. kind of the antithesis of Archie Bunker, and often played well off each other. And then I loved him directing This Is Spinal Tap, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. He had so many films, from Misery and When Harry Met Sally, and so many great films of the 80s and 90s. I mean, his box office is just unlike anyone else. It's just amazing stuff, Dave.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was an incredible storyteller, I thought, and funny guy from a legendary family, and it's just such a tragedy. So sad. I mean, there's been, still more and more stuff in the press about it, but very sad. R.I.P. Rest in peace to Rob and Michelle Reiner.
100%. Nickelodeon's Fairly Odd Parents voice actor Jim Ward, who was prolific voice actor, passes away at the young age of 66. And it's really sad once again. Per TMZ, Fairly Odd Parents actor was being treated in Los Angeles at the Silverado Beverly Palace memory care at the time of his death. Very sad indeed. And you have a voice actor like that who's been on so many different projects. It's very sad when that happens. We also have marvelous Ms. Maisel actress Winnie Alton Davis, fatally struck by a New York City taxi. And it's also very sad as well, David. This is a series that you've seen in the past. We reviewed here on the show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just when you hear these kinds of things, they feel like they should be avoidable. It's just terrible.
Well, yeah, 100%. Pulp Fiction and The Masked Actor, also Peter Green, found dead at 60 inside his New York City apartment. This also was quite a shock to a lot of people, and cause of death will be determined by ME over the next few days, but it says no foul play was suspected, according to the cops on the scene. One of my favorites from my generation, Gil Gerard, star of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, passes away at the age of 82. He battled a weight problem for decades and talked about it on the reality series Action Hero Makeover. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter, and I have fond memories of watching Buck Rogers growing up, like many others. And Dave, it's sad to see him go like this.
I know this was sad. He got some terribly aggressive cancer that took him out. It was just awful.
Absolutely, so sad. Greg Biffle, and some people may not know Greg Biffle, but the name is he's from NASCAR, and he passed away at Thursday at the age of 55. Also claimed the wife of his wife and two children, and I believe was a helicopter accident, if I'm not mistaken, Dave.
No, this was he was a helicopter pilot. Pilot. And he flew planes.
Yes.
And so I think he was piloting the plane that crashed.
That was it. That was definitely it. Yep.
It was terrible.
Yep. And then General Hospital actor Anthony Geary passes away at the age of 78. I think a lot of people remember the huge hullabaloo that happened in the 80s. That was Luke and Laura's wedding there in General Hospital. It was one of the biggest moments in daytime television history in 1981, Dave, and sad to see him.
It's crazy. I didn't really watch soap operas other than, if I was homesick and I was channel surfing. I might have watched 5 or 10 minutes of some, one of these shows, but I think everybody under the sun back then knew who Anthony Geary was because it was just a pop culture phenomenon.
It really was.
The Luke and Laura, wedding and all of that.
It really was. I mean, it really brought the ABC daytime up to everybody's consciousness at that point. And I know that my mom watched General Hospital during the day if she was home. And, I would not watch it. I was just watching Bob Barker. That's what I would do. My days, sick days, consisted of The Price is Right. And that's kind of where it was. Let's wrap things up really quickly. We have a country rocker, Joe Eli, who worked with Bruce Springsteen in The Clash, passing away at the age of 78. Tragic as well. And then ex-MMA fighter Geronimo dos Santos dead at 45 after drowning in an Amazonian river. I mean, very sad. These passings coming right around the holiday season are just tragic and shocking at the same time.
Yeah, it's always terrible to see this kind of obituaries popping up in the week or two leading into the holiday season. It's just awful for the loved ones, the friends left behind to mourn people, especially at a time that's supposed to be joyous with the holidays.
Yes, indeed. And as we kick things off the show, once again, Eddie Sotto, the former senior vice president of concept design at Walt Disney Imagineering, who worked on key parts of Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disneyland, passed away Wednesday afternoon. According to his son Brian, he was 67. According to the Walt Disney Family Museum, his portfolio at Disney consisted of about $500 million in built projects. Those range from the classically themed e-ticket attractions to retail, restaurants, web, mobile technology, and digital architecture. That's a lot of stuff, Dave.
Yeah, and not to mention, or not mentioned there, is the fact that after he left Imagineering, he set up his own design studio and had done a tremendous amount of work for, luxury brands and high-end clients all over the world. So, again, I'll just say, he really was one of those guys that was super talented and just incredibly nice. And, he was somebody who would give you his time if you approached him, if you, like I did with, asking him to review my House of the Future manuscript. He was just generous with his time and very insightful with his view of design elements and things like that. So just a very sad week to hear that he had passed away, and the fact that we had him as a guest on the show. And I hope our listeners really enjoy hearing Eddie talk about his career.
Certainly, just to kind of bring people up, and I know we hit on so much of this. I mean, back in the day with Skull Rock, we didn't have the epic 5-6 part series that we do, in recent years. But back in the day, we had a really great discussion about him working on Tokyo Disneyland and working on different stuff there at Imagineering, as well as the beginnings of his career as he was hired on as a special projects director at Knott's Berry Farm, where he designed it. And you'll hear this story about the wacky soapbox racers, which was really cool. And then, of course, as you mentioned too, Dave, of how he kind of did his own thing later in life, working for clients like Virgin Galactic, which was crazy, Porsche, Aston Martin, all these high-end car manufacturers in their experiential showrooms, Paramount Pictures, and of course the Wynn Resorts. We also talked about that briefly. So just a tremendous life, a tremendous career, and we're pleased to bring you a classic episode from The Vault featuring Eddie Sotto. So sit back and relax and enjoy this Vault episode featuring Eddie Sotto right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, once again, I got to tell you, I'm always looking forward to interviewing our guests, but I'm really looking forward to today, and I have been for weeks, because I met former Imagineer Eddie Sotto, who now has his own design studio. I met him down at the Hojo's in Anaheim last month, and we just hit it off. I was just so fascinated in talking with him. And so I just want to tell you right off the bat, he is somebody who has worked at Knott's Berry Farm. He's done Landmark Entertainment. He's worked on stuff at Universal Studios Hollywood, Six Flags. He's done design for Mattel. He's been a show producer and designer for Walt Disney Imagineering. He worked with Tony Baxter on Euro Disneyland, which is now Paris Disneyland, I guess. I mean, I could just keep going on, and then we end the show and never talk to him. So I'm going to welcome Eddie Sotto. It's so great to have you here on the Skull Rock podcast. Welcome.
Well, anything called Skull Rock podcast has to be a wonderful show to be on. So I'm delighted to be here. And just whatever you'd like to talk about, I'm ready for it. It was so fun meeting you there in Howard Johnson's.
Yeah. And you know something, I really wanted to sort of talk initially. I want to find out how you got in, because you were born and raised in California. You know, I did a little research on you. You were born in Hollywood. You come from a very creative family because your aunt, Marilyn Sotto, was a costume illustrator and designer who worked at Paramount Pictures, Universal, Walt Disney Studios. Your grandfather, this was fascinating. Your grandfather, Edward Sotto, was a scenic artist at MGM and a portrait artist. I wonder if Claude Coates crossed paths, because Claude worked in the art department at MGM in the 1930s, briefly before he started working for Disney.
Well, it's interesting you asked that. I think the time frames did not overlap for Claude and my grandfather, because my grandfather got there around World War II.
Okay.
It was hard to find work during World War II. He came forward to California and met with Clyde Geronimi, or Jerry Geronimi, because they were rival art students in New York. And Clyde, of course, became the producer or director of, I believe, for Dumbo. And so he actually met with him at the Disney studio. And my aunt got one of the Dumbo maquettes out of the Disney studio that Jerry Geronimi, they called him. There's obviously some of those are pal names. Yeah, gave my aunt that maquette, and it sat on my mantle. And kind of for living wage reasons, my grandfather really couldn't do a family of four very easily at the Disney studio, but he had an opportunity there. And then Clem Hall, who did a lot of work on the Hall of Presidents, Walt Disney World, Epcot, was a kind of a scenic artist at the Gene Autry Museum. Clem remembered my grandfather at a lunch I was at. He goes, yeah, I remember him vaguely. They're at MGM. So there's a little bit of cross paths, but definitely with the Disney studio.
That was very fascinating.
Yeah, but friends.
How did you get into this world of theme parks and working, on attractions?
I wanted to.
Okay. End of interview. No.
I really wanted to, and I think sometimes, I guess the biggest compliment to the Disney companies as a little kid, I'm sure all of us have experienced it. There's a moment where you go from being someone who goes, that was pretty good, to I'm obsessed and I'm going to come back and see this movie 40 times. My whole summer is going to be watching Back to the Future. My whole summer is going to be doing this or that. Well, when I was a little kid, very young, I think my first trip to Disneyland must have been the early 60s. And my father tells me that, I kept tugging on his sleeve of his sweater after the fireworks there on Main Street going, Dad, I like Disneyland. He's like, do you like Disneyland? No, I like Disneyland. So I think when you're a victim of experiential design, or you're a victim of immersion, the way all of us were, where you go, I like this better than the suburbia I spend most of my day in. I would rather be in this thing called New Orleans that I don't know about. I might even open a book and in school learn about it because it's so interesting.
We're going to be talking a lot about experiential design. Can you, just for our audience sake, could you explain what experiential attractions or immersive attractions, experiential design is to you?
Sure. To me, an experience, if you look it up in the dictionary, is where you absorb something or you assimilate something through all of your senses. You are gathering information through your body in real time. Your sense of balance, the smell, the sound, all of that is coming in synchronization at once through your body. Now, most companies, they hire an architect, or they hire an interior designer, a lighting designer, whatever it is, to handle one of those senses. And what I have found by going into different environments, like restaurants that you don't like that are too loud, or the kitchen door is swinging and the fluorescent light keeps blinding you, it's too hot, they're out of sync. They're like an orchestra where not everyone is reading the sheet music correctly. And so a good experiential designer emotionally understands the essence of what the guest is supposed to feel in that. And then, like an engineer, takes the colors, the music, All of these elements, the smell, the texture, all of it, even the motion, the tempo of the vehicles, and synchronizes it like an orchestra conductor takes this beautiful piece of music. Now, somebody had to write the music like Wagner and say, you are going to be depressed. Really depressed, or you're going to sense something magical with Camille Saint-Saëns, and you hear the Carnival of the Animals or Aquarium. So there's got to be that emotional thing you're conducting, and then you slave the environment around it. So every little cricket in the Blue Bayou, every little thing that you hear, it matters.
Right.
Now, you may not be able to control it all, but to me, when all of that is in perfect sync and you can't be distracted by contradictions from the outside world, that's truly great immersion. It could be little, like putting on a VR headset, except VR headset doesn't do all the senses. It's not doing the temperature. It's creating sweat around your brow. It doesn't even really sync up perfectly with your eyes. You get emotionally tired. So experiential design, to me, what I learned was that every single thing mattered. And John Hench, with the idea of the master shot, where you see something from a distance and it sets up an expectation. Well, that's emotionally the trailer for the movie, right? You're getting excited about what you're going to experience. As you get closer, all right, now the details reward the emotion. They reassure you. They tell you that, hey, I am in 1890. And secretly, your mind is telling you all the time, no, you're not. No, you're not, Dave. You're not in 1890. That's because there's a giant American Express sticker on the register that tells you to use your credit card. Anyway, so but you know all those little things. But when an Imagineer is ahead of you, some person you never met, putting this little tiny thing underneath the mat, and you lift the mat in Main Street, and you go, oh my goodness, it is 1890. Somebody was here ahead of me, because everything I turn over, every rock I flip over, there's just more detail. It's keeping the spell alive. And that's what we're paying for. We are paying for keeping the spell alive. I had laughed my head off yesterday seeing this construction fence in the Blue Bayou because they're working on the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I said, is this the first construction fence inside a ride? So one little detail, and by the way, maybe they had to do that. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way to do that, or like don't open the restaurant. But when you look at all these things, those details, one little thing, even a cast member, can mess up the whole orchestra. It can mess up the whole song. I Barry Call. It's backward masking. It's something in there that messes it up. So you asked for a sentence. I gave you a paragraph. Sorry about that. That's what I do for a living. I do it outside of Disney. That's my business now, is applying that to products and brands and places and ideas and airplanes and stuff like that.
And I think that was a great explanation. One of the things that I thought of as you were talking was going through the Pirates of the Caribbean, because it's such a long attraction at Disneyland. You really sort of sink into it. You really kind of get enveloped into it, going through the grotto, setting it all up, and then that beautiful reveal out into the big opening with the pirate ship pounding the Spanish town. That to me is where it really works well. And where it doesn't work well is when you go on an attraction that is too short. It doesn't give you enough to sink in. And that I had always felt that about the Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland and the Pirates of the Caribbean at Walt Disney World. And by the way, I had done Pirates of the Caribbean at Walt Disney World before I ever did Disneyland. Right. So to me, like when I did Pirates down at Disney World, I was like, wow, this is so cool. But, like 6 or 7 years later, when I actually did Pirates at Disneyland, I was like, oh my God, this is so much better, and in a sense, what you were just saying, it's really all the detail and all the sensors, all your senses being immersed into something for a period of time.
It's really true. And you talk about time. See, people sometimes forget, designers forget that there's a tempo, and just like an orchestra or any sort of symphony, there's a rest. There's times when you don't have to see something going on all the time. You want to build anticipation. And so, great attractions can be episodic. And one of the things that's great about Pirates of the Caribbean, whether they didn't have enough money or nobody knew what they wanted to do next, or for whatever reason, the Claude Coats story of going from the caves, building to that pirate ship. But isn't it powerful that you're in a Orson Welles radio moment where, ye come seek an adventure. You have that whole, curses have ye, properly warned ye be, says I. Who knows when that evil curse will strike the greedy? And you're just in the dark.
Yeah.
But it creates anxiety and anticipation. What's going to happen next? Because the voice leads the live pirate. You weren't seeing live pirates until that moment. And here's this thing, perhaps he knows too much, and you're like, oh no, what did I see? What did I see? And then there they are. There's Barbarossa, or there's Blackbeard in the old days. So those moments of space are so useful and so powerful, almost more powerful than seeing something.
Yeah.
But a really good designer, that part of the immersion is to say, now we need to take the senses and let you do some work. Let the guest begin to imagine. And this is sometimes we put out too much story and decide to have the birds, telling you everything you're just looking at. That's not a good movie.
Right.
Implicit versus explicit.
Yeah. What was the first attraction that you worked on? Was it down at Knott's Berry Farm?
Yes. Well, I worked on things that never got built, like so many people. You suggest and pitch things, and you get a lot of rejection, which is very healthy. And the rejection had gotten so bad that I pitched a ride at Knott's Berry Farm, this big water ride, Flash Flood Rapids. Said the 1880s, a flume ride with a sinking ghost town. So there's this Flash Flood Rapids thing. And they estimated it to a shocking, wallet-breaking, bank-crusting, you're irresponsible, I think $10 million or $12 million to build the ride back then. So
which is a drop in the bucket today, by the way.
That's a meeting at Imagineering. Talk about it, right? So, or anywhere else. So I was kind of like on this thing where they were going to get rid of me. They're like, well, they didn't decide to do the ride we just hired you to do, little Eddie. I was 19 or 20 years old. I no experience, never did anything in my life. But I did draw a ride they liked. First of all, it was an alcohol-driven Pirates of the Caribbean thing called Rum Runners of 1921, which was, kind of a gangster type, funny gangster, some like it, hot gangster, funny 1920s, because they had a 20s area. And then I found out these lawyers were getting upset at Knott's Berry Farm because people were getting injured or being threatened to be injured on this dangerous motorcycle ride, very high center of gravity motorcycle ride called the Cycle Chase. You could look it up. And it had 4 tracks where people race each other, much like Radiator Springs today. And my boss said, look, you want to save your job? The lawyers are really worried about what they're going to do with this ride. They might have to just close it. Why don't you go out and look and see if there's something you can do with it? Because people are getting injured. Maybe change the seat on the car. I don't know. Just get out of the office, will you? Okay, so I did. And I looked at it, and I remember the Our Gang comedies where, the old MGM films, you can see them on Turner Classic Movies, where the Spanky and the kids make little racing cars out of crates, soapbox racing cars. I thought, if we could only lower the center of gravity, take off that motorcycle, put these 4 racing people down low, put them in like a bobsled configuration or a flume configuration. That way they can't reach each other. They're kind of enclosed, low center of gravity, very safe. So I went home that night and I thought, well, this is worth a shot. I made a little model out of paper. It's like a cardboard model with marker pens, drew it. And I have to admit, this is a cute little Mr. Toad car meets a soapbox made out of crates, tin can headlights. I cut stuff up. And then I didn't have any wheels, so I went and cut some buttons off of my wife's overcoat, these black buttons.
I'm sure she appreciated that.
Yeah. I took hat pins, and put them through and made this little car. And this is like probably the one artifact from my whole career I wish I had, because it told a story. I wish I had the thing. I think it finally just fell apart. So I took it into work, and my boss was like, well, Eddie, where's the drawings? Where's the ride? I go, well, it's only been a day, my friend. I don't know what you expect, but he goes, well, what do we got? I got to go in the meeting and talk to these guys. So, well, here's a little model. It's this car. We're going to change the vehicle. It's going to be a soapbox racer ride. remember in the 20s and 30s, and of course it's a themed 1920s area, the 20s airfield. So it fit the theme. I said, this could be really cute. Remember, if you lower the center of gravity, everybody can ride it. It's not 48 inches plus. It's anybody, kids. It's a kiddie coaster. And it has competition. When you lean, the gravity gives you the impression that you're really racing. Gives the kids an interactive stake. So he goes, oh, I don't know. I'll take it in there. We'll see what happens. He thought the car was cute. That was about all he had. And so he took it in the meeting and came out. And I said, well, what happened? He goes, it's the weirdest thing. All they did was play with the car. I go, you really? He goes, yeah, the little wheels. They played with the car on the conference table. I go, so what does that mean? Am I fired or what? He says, no, we're doing the ride. So I had no experience. I was the assistant project designer at Knott's Berry Farm. I had never done anything. I mean, I designed swimming pools for my father who had a pool company and, destroyed people's backyards for him. And at this point, now they kind of threw me out there and basically hired a design firm made of ex-Imagineers. This was very appealing to a Disney freak like me. You mean I get paid to go sit and do sketches, and these real people that really know how to do this are going to take my sketches and draft them and develop them and show me, the ropes. So I got taught by Fred Hope.
This is Landmark Entertainment, right?
No, this is the only animated display and design company with Fred Hope, Roger Brogy Jr.
Oh, wow.
These are the sons of the greatest art directors and mechanical engineers
out there. Disney,
Fred Hope came from 20th Century Fox. I mean, you think of Gone with the Wind. Sure. Well, his son, and actually his grandson was the gentleman who was my teacher. And that gentleman who just recently told me this, went to marry a Knott. She's like, what do I do with Eddie over here? He's a 20-year-old idea guy. I don't know how to, what I want him to do this, but obviously, what are we going to do? Fred goes, look, we've got all the right people. I will teach him. We will take his ideas and make them real with him. So I did original art of all the sets and picked Henry Mancini music and did my voices of drunken cats and all kinds of crazy stuff. And we made this little kitty cat world of the wacky soapbox racer ride. And it did 1 million people in 11 weeks. It was it did 120% of the attendance of the park every day. Wow. That's phenomenal. So this ride was a smash hit not because of me, but because it appealed. And it was a ride that younger kids could go on, like a fabulous kiddie coaster with competition. Kids went on it over and over and over, racing each other. And really is the precursor to the Cars Radiator Springs we tried at WDI. It was on my, bucket list to try to get a competition racing ride. I tried the rocket bikes. That didn't work out, which turned into rocket rods, which really didn't work out. I didn't do that right. Yeah. So this competition thing was something the ride group was focused on for a long time. Sorry about that, but that's a long answer.
No, that's fantastic. But from Knott's Berry Farm, you went to Landmark Entertainment?
Yeah, to Landmark. And by the way, if your listeners are interested, there's a wacky soapboxracers.com website that has all the historic pictures from my archive of building the ride, music from the ride, history of the ride, and all this crazy stuff.
That's awesome. So we can put that in the show notes, Aljon.
Put that in the show notes, right there in the show notes.
We got it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So how long were you at Landmark Entertainment?
My job cycle of just impatience, I guess, with 3 years. So I was at Knott's for about 3 years, worked through Camp Snoopy. And then for Robin Hall, who was the senior designer. I was not the senior designer, but he was very generous and let me do little rides there. The little Huff and Puff Pump It ride and Q buildings. And he was the master designer, though. That was his thing. Very nice guy, very kind and patient guy. I interviewed at Landmark, and they were doing something themed, and they were the wannabe, WED Enterprises. If you couldn't have WED and you were Six Flags or something or Universal, you went to
Landmark.
It was called Gary Goddard Productions at the time.
Right.
So I interviewed with them and got to do my dream, which was steampunk before steampunk, called the Laboratory of Scientific Wonders. Yes, Professor Phineas Flagg and his great laboratory. It was this amazing, crazy walkthrough in Baltimore, Maryland at the Six Flags power plant.
And that's really what caught Tony Baxter's eye. Or so the story goes.
Well, It is the story, and I'm sticking to it. And if it's not true, it should be. But the thing that was funny about that is that sometimes so as the young designers, this is the advice department. You're like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I don't really think this is fun. I don't like working on the construction fence design for Pleasure Island or whatever. One thing leads to another, and you never know where it's going to be. So I'm on this, pretty much this location-based entertainment center. It has no rides in it. It doesn't have a very good life expectancy, but the sets were awesome. I mean, we got to design submarines. I mean, I had a ball. I mean, I got to draw my brains out and do all this cool, basically channel Harper Goff, without the banjo, and sort of just do that. And I knew Tony loved Discovery Bay. And I was kind of doing, my best Discovery Bay Frank Gorshin impression, of that and drawing stuff. So Bruce Gordon was Tony Baxter's right-hand person at the time. So I would funnel spy photos. Tony is very curious what Gary Goddard was doing. Gary Goddard has snarky ways like, you'll never get Discovery Bay, but I will. So Tony was very, which was not a nice thing to say, but however, it was kind of true. So Tony was very curious about what Gary was doing. And the place didn't do well, but it was an amazing piece of design. We had Jim Michelson, Eddie Martinez, Herbie Ryman's working on it. I met him there. I mean, the networking was fabulous. And even though it didn't last that long, Tony liked what he saw, thank goodness. And I worked really hard. I mean, I worked super, super, super hard. And the photos and the imagery of it and the music. And we had top talent working on this thing. John Debney did the music there.
Right.
Yeah. Famous Academy Award.
Sure.
Yeah. I called him like, hey, John, can you help me? He's like, what? Who are you again? So anyway, a lot of Jim Michelson, fabulous designer. I got to work with all the great people there. So anyway, that was Landmark Entertainment. Finally, Tony goes, hey, Eddie, what are you doing Friday night? You want to come work on Disneyland, Euro Disney, and I might have a place for you as a designer. No model shop. See, I used to ask my wife if I could go work at the model shop. And she's like, well, that's like $5 an hour. You make more at Sears selling washing machines than you could make there. You're not allowed to leave Sears unless you make more money. This is not a less money world. Like, okay.
So you did
for my wife.
So you did Main Street USA for Euro Disneyland.
That's correct.
Now, did you do anything else at Euro Disneyland, or was that specifically?
I mean, Main Street had the one good thing, because Main Street, I was reminded continuously, is not even a land; it's a mall. Which is kind of depressing, frankly. Running, people say, "Well, let's just build another Florida or another Tokyo with a roof." And Tony and I were committed to not having the sonics of that glass roof of Tokyo. We just didn't want to do that. And Tony, and I worked together, and he's wonderful. And we basically managed to get those arcades that run behind it. Because there was a budget, a weatherproofing budget for that park. So we used instead of doing a Tokyo roof, we did the arcades. And frankly, we tried to do everything we could to not build a Main Street no one would relate to, frankly, because no one in Europe cares about yet another cute village with architecture stolen from them. So we didn't want to do that. So it was kind of a bit of an adventure working with Tony. And really, I got to do the original concept work for the hotel, steam trains. I'm a huge train fan privately. So getting to do the steam trains made it worth it. I tried to do a Victorian people mover called the elevated train, L-train system, and a 20s Main Street, but we didn't end up building that. It got kind of out of control, expensive, and gave Mr. Eisner an excuse not to do it, which is probably a really good one because I turned it into a land, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to have a land, so go back to the photocopier.
Now, how long were you with Walt Disney Imagineering?
I was with Imagineering from 1986. My ID card still said WED on it, and then left in just about the year 2000.
All right. So you had a good run there. It wasn't 3 years.
13 years, roughly.
Yeah. Which is fantastic. And when you stepped out on your own, because I want to talk a little bit, I want to spend a little time on this part of your career because I find it fascinating. Because
at least one. Yeah.
Yes, but how does one go about leaving Imagineering and taking this concept of experiential design out on his own into the world. Now, I know the answer to this, but I want you to tell our audience what you think it is. You know what I mean? Why did you decide that was the right time for you to go do it?
Okay, so at the time I was in charge of the, after Disneyland Paris, in charge of the portfolio for Tokyo Disneyland as the sort of lead, the Tony Baxter for Tokyo Disneyland.
Right.
Eric Jacobs. Okay. So one of the attractions they wanted was an attraction so good that it would prevent people from only going to the new, untried, fabulous Tokyo Disney Sea and cannibalizing the whole audience like a little herd of cattle, running over to Tokyo Disney Sea and never going back to Tokyo Disneyland. So, but you're not allowed, because Oriental Land Company likes to use things that are proven.
Right.
Pretty smart, those folks over there. And I couldn't find anything on the shelf that was really that good, except I saw this ride system called Aquatopia. I said, what would happen if we took the ride system from Aquatopia out of the water where it goes 1 mile an hour and we put it in a dark ride environment? We could do anything we want, like a trackless dark ride. And that is what became Pooh's Honey Hunt. And that attraction, as we were designing it, I quit before it finally opened, but I was there most of the time. Also, Mission Space is an attraction that I was able to spearhead and begin. So those attractions were in progress with entirely new ride systems. That was very exciting. And Marty Sklar, who was very kind, could see I was bored. And I said, I want my own little studio in Imagineering just to cook up ideas. You can feel free to hate them and present them. So here we are, almost in the year 2000, and we're building and the Tokyo Disneyland portfolio of Pooh, and Mission Space is going, and all these things are going out of this little studio. One of which is the ABC Times Square Studios, this giant video facade, internet connected, never been done for the Millennium facade for ABC. That was also a project. So I like doing things I've never done before. So kind of learning how to run a design studio on other people's money inside of Disney.
Right.
Running your own business, building out all the talent. And part of it was bringing in talent from other firms, like from Mercedes-Benz, an industrial designer, or different people from different places. So it was very, very stimulating. So every year I had to go back and get budget. I am actually leading to the answer to this question.
I'm fascinated.
And so we had presented all the other things to Mr. Pressler, who's running everything, and said, we believe the future is trackless, wireless ride technology. And I won't say what it is for NDA reasons, but here's the 5 new frontiers beyond Winnie the Pooh that this would be really good for. And all I want in my little budget is to continue exploring and building on this platform. And this is the future. Now, this is the year 1999. Mm-hmm. Prince is still singing. I mean, it's just a long time ago. So there we are. Okay. And they were like, yeah. And I just showed the rocket bikes in Santa Clarita. We had built a test track and shown that. And they were like, yeah. And I was doing wheelies. It was awesome. It looked like a chopper. And anyway, anything that looked new and exciting, no one was interested in it. No one.
Why?
I even said, well, why can't I be the CCO for Disney Online? I want to work on a new frontier. I'll do anything that's new and different and breakthrough.
Why do you think that? Why do you think they were like that?
Because they were administratively driven. I sat at a meeting where I won't even get into it, but basically I could tell by sitting in meetings where Mr. Pressler would say, look at an idea for a ride and say, don't make it just like that, but not as good as what Universal is doing. And I'm thinking, well, why would I stay here and do that? So now, Imagineering has been through some great, upturns like Lasseter. I mean, there's been times when there's been budget like Galaxy's Edge. I drool when I see the money they had for those rides. So I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying at the moment I was there, they were I was at Disneyland with Tony closing rides. I said, hey, let's do some swag for the accountants, like pinstripe suits that say attraction closer team 1999 and hand out swag. I mean, I was so depressed. So I just felt the pendulum is swinging really far. It's okay. It's going to swing the other way. But why should I sit through this? I don't want to. And then I was developing some television shows and some things in media, and I was offered money to leave.
Right.
So I thought, one last chance. Wireless rides, guys. Let me beg you. Let's do that. No, we don't know what we want. I said, okay, well, I can't wait for that.
So when you left, you set up Sotto Studios.
Well, no, I went to an internet company that bought me out of Disney, and that only lasted 9 months. I could kind of smell that, but I did learn very, very quickly how to make content for the web and make television programs almost like an independent film producer. So I knew how to write, work with crews, shoot, and ran an online advertising agency for about 9 months. And it did really well, actually. So parts of it were good, parts of it weren't. And then an investor came and started a company called Progress City. You ever heard that term before?
Yeah, I've heard
that. We were going to
Yeah.
blend basically it was metaverse before metaverse. We're going to blend physical places with virtual places. That was in the year 2001. And after 9/11 hit, we were doing really well. And then that stopped. I started developing TV shows for VH1. So MTV gave me an office to develop television shows. Meanwhile, I was locking the door, not telling anyone, and designing a Ferrari dealership for Steve Wynn and an Aston dealership in San Fernando Valley, and started creating immersive entertainment. So by accident, I was just using what I knew to create these instinctively complete total environments. You know, the Encounter restaurant at LAX is an example of a total restaurant. So I was just taking this total world creation and applying it to a brand like Aston Martin or Ferrari or, Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas or whatever it was. I was just, you kind of go by instinct, David. It's just sort of your instincts. You just look at something, it doesn't feel right, and you do an analysis and then help the client change.
Let me ask you this. I want to drill in on Aston Martin because I love Aston Martin's designs. I think their cars have beautiful lines to them.
Oh, they do.
But when you talk about a complete immersion for a company like Aston Martin, is that designing sort of the showroom for the car? Which becomes almost like this private suite kind of.
You're leading this on. It's exactly what it was.
The reason why I'm saying that, I happened to actually go into one that
Did you go to Galpin?
Yeah, the one at Galpin. Yes,
that's the one we worked on.
Yeah.
So Bo Bachman, who's an entrepreneur and owner of Galpin, loves to do new things. I met him on, literally, you actually can meet someone on a flight and have a new client. So we flew back from London together, sitting at the bar in Virgin Atlantic in the first class bar. And we kind of conceived the whole thing at the bar because he was coming back from Jaguar and says, I want to do something in a private way, but I want people, something that would blow a billionaire away. Because what can you do? I said, well, it wouldn't be finishes, but what it could be is make people feel like they're in a Bond film without ever saying the words James Bond.
Yeah.
So we created, if you go to SottoStudios.com, any listener or viewer can go and look at this. It's on the site. So it has a bank vault with your car in it. So when your car is finished, they open the vault door and there's the car you designed in a vault.
Yeah.
And it's right out of Dr. No or any one of these films, But we don't want to take away from the car because the car is good on its own. That's the worst thing you could do. Just create an environment that basically is the legacy of the car.
It's the immersive experience of actually purchasing your car and picking it up,
Right. And so when I asked the salespeople a couple of years later, I go, what works about this and what doesn't? They said, what really works is that people feel like it's private consumption.
Yeah.
No one's watching me, especially as celebrities that come in through this secret entrance in the back. I guess it's not secret now. And so you come in through the back and you go up the stairs through the airlock and literally leather door opens in the cylinder and you go in and, they buy every accessory possible because no one's judging them. No one's watching them.
Yeah.
It's just, it gives you permission to kind of be a kid again in the way that Main Street or Disney does, except you can be your inner Bond,
And it makes you feel special. I mean, that's the whole thing about an experiential immersion, regardless of what the product is. It's making you as the consumer feel special.
Totally.
And feel cool.
And the funny thing is, this is why it's important to never spell out every little detail in a literal way to the guest, because you give them room to dream. I remember a story that on the Rivers of America, they wrote this big script describing everything you could possibly see around the rivers of America. And this is going to be really good for all the Disney fans because now they're going to know, where that elk went to college or what lodge it went to as it's standing on the side of the, I don't know. They didn't say, I just made that up.
Yeah, but still.
It's like, that went to the Elks Lodge.
You're making a good point though,
Yeah. So let's spell out every little detail because that's what the fans really want. Well, fans don't really want that. They want the premise. And people want the freedom, like an impressionist painting, to look at it. And, you can imagine how good, let your brain, which is far more sophisticated and amazing than the haystacks, Monet would paint. And you say, well, no, I can see everything in that. You got to let the guest play their own role. The LARP thing is powerful. You have to let the guests be that. It's so funny on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the person on Twitter that said, I wanted to fit in so much. I was handing out business cards because I wanted to be a merchant as part of the story. So I went back and this person got yelled at, took their business cards away. You can't do that. You're getting into the show. I'm like, well, isn't that the danger? I mean, you're letting people hold one end of the steering wheel, but isn't that why we're there? As a boy on Tom Sawyer Island, thank goodness I could do anything and play with my friends in those caves all day. And we made up all kinds of stuff.
And it's that sense. It's you're using your imagination, and it's the sense of discovery. You're not being told every little detail, like you said. You're allowing the guests to discover stuff. That's it's sort of the hidden Mickey idea. You drop these things in whatever you're building, and you allow the guests to discover them.
Now that's interesting. You mentioned hidden Mickey. I think it's very different in that hidden Mickey is the fact that somebody there is geocaching and that people have geocached these things. But when you put a detail in, like the manhole covers on Main Street coming from the Smithsonian and really having a story, the richness is there to reaffirm the premise of Main Street, but it's not saying, David isn't wearing his barbershop quartet outfit. Now he's a bad boy. He's got to go home and you're not in 1893.5. Ooh, we're not shaming you for that. We're just letting you be in this premise and you can have what you want out of it and let you enjoy it. Because these things mean so many things to different people,
So you've done these experiences for purchasing automobiles that are very cool and immersive, but also you're designing aircraft interiors and creating experiences. And I do want to mention the fact that you have clients in Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. I don't know how much you could talk about that, but what you're bringing to the table with all of these different brands is that experiential immersion into whatever it is, right?
Whatever it is. I mean, and so my resume from Mission Space onward and then working, I can't talk about what exactly, but I have some experience with Blue Origin. I have experience currently with Virgin Galactic. And, and I think if you talk to those companies, they're selling a ride. So why, and aircrafts are highly regulated environments. So Embraer was a client of our studio, which is right behind literally with Airbus and Boeing. I mean, they're number 3 in the world, and they do private jets, the best you could possibly find. And they're also very progressive as far as design. So I wanted the environment I'm in right now, you can see is called Sky Ranch 1, which we won an award with Embraer for this kind of ranch-inspired aircraft, equestrian-inspired aircraft. So, I mean, if you're a ride guy and you understand, basically all it is understanding guests and being the guest. I never cease being the guest. I don't do anything that I wouldn't want to sit in.
But when you're doing like Ranch 1 for this aircraft, are you meeting with the client, the person that's actually paying the bill for the plane's interior?
Well, the way aircrafts work is you meet with a client and that they basically have to give you their family program. Like, what are they using the plane for? What is the range of the aircraft? There's all these, it's kind of like a program for a ride. I mean, because some people don't need a big plane if they're going to be flying locally. They may have kids that want to be on the carpet playing Scrabble. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, or video games, So you're really doing a custom environment. Now, most aircrafts, 99% of them are not custom. It was interesting that these custom interiors ended up being more valuable for marketing than anything else. And what you really find out is that most people just change colors of seats and things because, they're not this is like a $63 million aircraft plus $10 million interior. So you're up at 80 something for the jet.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Boeing business jet, BBJ. So we do concept work for people. We have yachts. I mean, the most famous thing we ever did was, what if a yacht could fly, and putting a Chris Craft vintage yacht design into an airplane called Sky Yacht One. All this is on our Sotto Studios website.
That I want to check out. I'm curious if you're doing private jets, have you done any work with any major airlines to improve the sort of mass market interior of some of the planes, or even business or first class kind of things?
It's funny. The answer would be no to that. However, we've done work on terminals, everything that happens from the curb to the time that you get in the aircraft, because I think we'd all agree that airlines somehow don't know who you are once the door opens and you're out of there. It's like, goodbye. So, what would make more, and the airlines really do want that, but what would make more of a seamless experience between the transit authority, the airline, and all the businesses that exist within a terminal? How do you reimagine it as less friction and more enjoyment? Because, all these regulations and the Homeland Security have made air travel kind of unattractive.
Yeah.
Not very fun.
I know.
It's not jet set anymore. It's upset instead of jet set.
I'm curious, just from a sort of a 30,000 foot view, do you feel like as consumers, we're going to be seeing a lot more in the way of immersive experiences, whether it's going into a Whole Foods or going to a Nordstrom's or going, to take a flight to visit grandma and grandpa. I mean, are we as a society sort of veering that way where everything becomes an experience and a story?
Well, I mean, advertising agencies want you to think that. They think they are the perfect purveyor of story and immersion, that your deodorant is a storytelling experience or whatever, Old Spice, and you're going to think you're at sea and all that. But however, I feel like the divisive world we live in only creates a greater need for escape. And so whatever that escape is, whether it's the so-called metaverse, which is sort of Second Life all over again, or something, coming back, all of these things are very, very precious. And the purveyors that really create great alternative realities, I feel like that's going to be that. People are more sophisticated than they are, and they've been in the past, and you're going to see, I think, more of that. I mean, immersive attractions, where I think their projection mapping is going to get burned out pretty quickly, where you're in a white box and they're showing motion graphics of Van Gogh and you really think you saw Van Gogh or whatever. All those things are, going to cycle, I think. But basically, I feel like experiences are going to get more intimate because computers can provide mass customization. As artificial intelligence, or machine learning as it's called, gets more personal, and it's in the, right now it's very prehistoric with Genie Plus, with the grunts and groans of, we don't have enough room for you on the attraction you came for. Go over there. No, go over there. All that's going to get better. All these things are going to get more personal and better as these things learn what you want to do, and hopefully become frictionless. That's what luxury is. Luxury, what separates high-priced luxury from everything else is frictionless experience.
Right. Exactly. That's the difference between going on a cruise where they're asking for your room card to charge every drink and donut you get, to going on a cruise where it's all inclusive.
Yes.
Absolutely. I went to the Discovery Cove at SeaWorld years ago. And when I sat, I was working for SeaWorld. So they sent me to the Discovery Cove in Florida, where it's all inclusive. It's like $80 or 100 and something. I don't know what it is. A lot. Okay. all the Fritos, you could just go and grab them off the counter, as many as you wanted. And it was amazing. And I had to be a mystery guest, right? So I would go sit next to other people on the lawn chair, and you'd look over and I go, hey, this is pretty cool, huh? What do you think? And people are like, you have no idea how I love not being nickeled and dimed. I just love the idea that I can't even remember what I paid, but my kids are not coming to me for the credit card or the wristband. And I don't think there's no additional charges except for a few things, like specialty drinks, like a signature drink is more. But pretty much people can drink as much beer as they want. And their kids could just go be eating Fruit Loops, all afternoon long, spitting them out in the ocean or whatever, in the lagoon, and then enjoying it. And the parents were so relaxed. I mean, I think everyone's just underestimating this frictionless thing.
I think it's funny, though. Did you notice that people, you're always going to have somebody that'll take advantage of it and like go grab, 42 bags of Fritos to take back to their room and stuff in their suitcase. But most people are pretty reasonable, aren't they?
Well, Discovery Cove is not tied to a hotel room. You got to take a bus to it. So there's no little locker for you to go put, all the candy bars in that are melting in the Florida heat, inside your locker, and of course the kids are going to do that. But here's what happens. I spent, I think, 2 days just observing people get burned out on excess. There's only so much of that you can do, and it's hot. And the other thing I thought was interesting too, which I loved, and no one's even noticed this. Everyone has to wear a black wetsuit. And it's kind of like Dapper Day in rubber. And you kind of go, hey, everybody looks kind of cool in their, body glove thing. And it doesn't even matter if your body is in a perfect shape. You kind of blend in with everybody else and everybody looks kind of equal. And it's just sort of a neat thing because everyone looks aquatic. And there's, it's sort of like taking away graphic confusion.
Yeah.
And people take their wetsuit off or whatever. They have a bathing suit underneath. But for the most part, it was like theming the public into this kind of worked. Like Dapper Day is kind of fun. I went to a Porsche meet on a big lawn the other day, and everybody brings their 911s. This kind of harmony of environment, it kind of works. And then you combine that with these activities and free things. And the kids are satisfied. They're just off doing stuff. I guess cruise ships do that.
I want to take us back to the beginning of our conversation because you and I met at the Hojo's in Anaheim because we were taking a look at the House of the Retro Future Suite that Hojo's has put together.
Oh yeah.
And Nancy and I had the opportunity to spend the night that evening, but we were all in there chatting and getting sort of the lowdown from Jonathan, the general manager, on the different aspects and thought process that went into the design of that space. And, when you look at that, it's a very cohesive design space that felt very comfortable. It is this retro future kind of feel to it. Do you see more of that happening in the hospitality end of things? And I'm not saying specifically, House of the Future, but I'm talking in terms of, taking design themes to the nth degree a little bit, like the TWA Hotel at JFK, which I actually saw early this morning because I was in New York this morning, and here I am in Los Angeles talking to Eddie Sotto this afternoon. The modern world of a jet setter.
Yeah, I think the TWA Hotel, the operators of it, I think are, at the time I was there more than a year ago or 2 years ago when they first opened, you had not quite figured it out yet. So I would give, mixed marks to that. But the environment, the immersiveness and the details they put in, and they still let you personalize things and do stuff. They didn't go too far. Things weren't so precious. I think hotels now and resorts have to work harder because of Airbnb. Like when our family went to Europe and we decided that that's what we were going to do. We only maybe did one hotel out of the whole thing. The rest was these apartments that are in Paris, and you get the feel of Paris and, that immersion of being there, whether it has antiques in it, kind of like they had retro record albums in that Home of the Future suite. that's special. Again, let's go back to special. That makes it really fun. I think there's a borderline, though. If you go too far in the hotel room, you're like worried about breaking everything or not, or your deposit going away or whatever. But I do think these rooms that enhance where you're at. I think like the city of New Orleans is that way. I stayed in the most gorgeous, was it something DeVille? I don't know, something DeVille, right in the middle of the French Quarter. And you open your balcony and there's the palms and the orchestra band from Pat O'Brien's is playing there. And then, you're really living it. I think that's very, very important. And I love working on projects like that.
Yeah. Look,
you don't have to do a lot is my point.
I think, you can go to a hotel, and we've all done this. We've stayed at a hotel, and it's just it's like being in a jail cell. It's a basic room. There's nothing special. It just feels like stuff's off the shelf. And then I've stayed at like boutique hotels, like, there's a small chain, Indigo Hotels. I don't know if you've heard of them, where they really put some thought into designing the room and making it feel like there's separate spaces within, the overall space that's allocated for the room. And, to me, it seems that a lot of these companies are starting to, maybe they're taking baby steps, but they're starting to go and explore better design. I mean, you have to be seeing that with your clients, obviously.
Yeah. And, I think the one thing that hotels completely miss the opportunity is room service. And, room service has been the same since it's been forever. The guy comes up. Now, some room service spectacular in Europe where they bring silver, it probably gets all stolen, but they bring the silver and they really do a big production. And room service is traditionally expensive. However, people now with crime or being in foreign cities or just being burned out, the room, they assume, well, I'm in a big city. The room doesn't have to be any good. So let's just have the lobby be nice and give somebody a box and that's enough. Well, making the room service experience where you go, I'm too tired. I've been in meetings all day long. I just want to watch the game. I think that's a huge opportunity for not necessarily even themed, but really wonderful experiences in your room. Why does the room have to feel like a jail cell? Well, real estate values has something to do with it, but a lot of us take our shoes off because we have to answer a million emails on another time zone. You have to sit there at the desk,
Yeah. No, I find it all very fascinating, Eddie. And I have to tell you, I could sit here and talk with you for the next 3 or 4 hours and just keep peppering you with questions and asking about this, that, and the other thing. And I wish we had the time. But what I will say, and I always say this to our guests, we're going to have you back. And we're gonna just talk about like one thing. I don't know what that's gonna be, but we're gonna talk about just one aspect of what you do and sort of pick things apart. Now, you did tell me a story, and I don't know if you want to repeat it. And maybe you do. You did tell me a story when we met down at the Hojo's about the Star Wars hotel experience.
Well, I haven't been on the Star Wars hotel experience myself, so I don't want to opine on it until I actually do.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone then, because we were talking about that. And you were relaying a comment that somebody had made who stayed at it. I don't know if you remember that.
Well, I think let's let the viewers watch the videos. And I think there have been some good online sources that have stayed more than once. I think it's important to try that because and frankly, I think the biggest problem is it was mismarketed, as all about the cost of the room and not what you do there.
Right.
I think people would figure that out, but hopefully we'll see what that is. The start, I'm a big fan of the galactic,
Star Cruiser
idea.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that necessarily of that hotel just yet because I haven't been there, but I have to hold my judgment back.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Well, that's.
But I do love interactive theater. I guess I did Secret Cinema in London, and that was a fantastic evening out, and that was $300, not $6,000. So
yeah, but
ways to experience live interaction that are really exciting.
I do feel like, if you're going to have an experience, you have to, you're going to have to pay something for it. What that is going to, it could be extreme or it could be, fairly reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so, yes, with any new ride, I'm always careful about that because unless I've gone on it and experienced it and just sit and watching a YouTube video, got to be a little bit cautious.
Yeah. All right.
But this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And
it was fantastic having you on. We're going to put the links to your... Yes, our audience has been enamored. They were so quiet during the interview that now they're going wild, But we are going to put the links to your websites into the show notes so people can check out some of the really fantastic and cool things that you've been working on since you left Disney Imagineering. And I can't tell you how much of a thrill it's been to just be able to chat with you for the past hour about all of this fantastic stuff and really just inspiring. It's really inspiring to me to hear you talk about experiential immersive design. It's something that our listeners love this kind of stuff because they love the parks. They go to the theme parks and they love these kinds of attractions, and for you to be taking that out into the world is just magnificent.
Well, I guess people say, why is Disneyland Paris, an interesting park? And I said, well, it was designed by fans for fans. And so I feel like, you got to be a believer to go out and do this stuff. And I have to be moved by the environment myself. Everything I work on, I have a playlist for. I'm listening to the music. The door is closed. I'm channeling like a method actor, anything I work on. I become, whatever it is I try to work on. So I want every guest to feel that. So the fact that Disneyland Paris is still there after 30 years, I think is a tribute to all the designers and the cast and the guests that have supported something with no new rides, because the immersion had to carry that park for all that time. So anyway, thank you, David. Always a pleasure, and appreciate your insightful questions.
Well, thanks
I'm looking forward to that Monsanto book. I want to see that.
You and I, by the way, are going to talk about that Monsanto House of the Future book. I'm going to be in touch with you. I promise. Right. Okay. But anyway, thank you, Eddie, for being on the show, and we will talk to you again soon.
Bravo. And from Sky Ranch 1 to everyone, have a safe life.
If you are a Disney Plus subscriber, there is a spring ticket offer available to you as part of your Disney Plus perks. You can get a special 3-day, 3-part ticket to select theme parks at Walt Disney World Resort this spring. It's going to be starting at $109 per day plus tax. The total price will start at $325 plus tax. The one thing is, it is not valid for admission to Magic Kingdom. You can get it for Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Interesting.
So the dates for this are going to be January 12th to May 22nd. And your tickets must be used within 5 days of the selected start date.
Well, thank you for that Disney travel deal. Kristen, how can people get in touch with you so that they can save time, money, and all that aggravation and take advantage of your knowledge of the Disney parks?
They can contact me at Kristen, Kristen, at magicaljourneystravel.com.
Skull Rock Podcast.
To infinity and beyond.
Exploring the outer reaches of the Disney galaxy.
Oh, wow, you flew magnificently.
And there's our tribute to Eddie Sotto, just a legendary figure in the world of Disney Imagineering, and rest in peace.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we were able to play that again for our listeners, and especially for our newer listeners who might not have heard it back in 2022. Again, an incredibly talented guy who's left us too soon.
100%. Dave, we wrap up this year practically. I can't believe it. You know, I know that we have one more show coming up before we wrap things up on the 29th, but this is kind of like our swan song for the year, really. It's been a great year, Dave. What can I say? It's been great. Another great year of doing awesome shows with you.
You know, I feel the same way. It's been a fantastic year, and I'm glad it's ending. It's just been an incredibly busy year. A lot of changes, a lot of passings, including my mother, passed away in July, and the fact that Nancy and I relocated full-time to the East Coast. It's just, I'm looking forward to putting the year behind us. But the other thing, too, I would reflect on, Aljon, is that, you know, we are in our 6th year now. We passed our 5-year anniversary of the Skull Rock podcast. And it's really kind of hard to believe because when we started this, I didn't know where it was going to go. I just enjoyed getting together with you on a weekly basis and chatting about pop culture and what we've been watching and stuff.
Yeah.
And interviewing friends.
Yeah.
And it just feels like the show has gone through some changes and expanded, and I'm still enjoying it. And I'm just amazed that we've been doing it for as long as we have, you know? I mean, more than 270 episodes. It's crazy.
I can't even believe that you mentioned the number of episodes. It is hard to believe. It is really hard to believe. But nonetheless, here we are. And there's so many more stories that have yet to be told. And we appreciate you. And appreciate you, Dave. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all of our guests. And, of course, our listeners. Thank you so much for making the show what it is today and continued support of it. We really do appreciate it. So, gang, thank you so much for listening to this tribute show. We appreciate it. We've got another Vault show coming up to celebrate our holidays, so enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed our wrap-up on all things. Please feel free to follow us on all the social media. Check out our archive there at skullrockpodcast.com. Send us those emails, if you will, Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. Best place for you to follow me would be Aljon Go on Instagram. You can also follow me on X if you're so inclined. And check out our friends at Sorcerer Radio at srsounds.com. We appreciate that. Sorcerer Radio, all Disney music all day long. Dave?
Well, you know, Aljon, I always mention that I have this little show, The Tunes Behind the Tunes, on Sirius XM, Disney Hits Channel 133. All during December, we're featuring the song My Funny Friend and Me from Disney's 40th animated film, The Emperor's New Groove, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And the year is almost over. It's unbelievable. Also, if you're interested, you can get signed copies of many of my books at theoldmillpress.com. Including the House of the Future book that I talked about that has a great jacket quote from Eddie Sotto. The other thing I would mention, Aljon, is that we're going to be off next week, and then we're going to be back, I guess, the following week, which will be Monday. Here we go. I'm trying to get us here.
That'll be the 5th.
It's going to be Monday, January 5th. We're going to kick off 2026.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And I will say we have some great guests coming up in 2026. And I'm looking forward to our listeners hearing those interviews. It's... you know, what more can I say? I feel like I'm a little bit on the downer side at the moment, you know, because of some of the things that have gone on over the past week.
Yeah.
But I do want everybody to go out and have a fantastic holiday season. Be kind to one another. It's crazy out there on the roads. And it's infuriating sometimes, I have to say.
Yeah.
You know, try and enjoy the holidays with your loved ones, And we'll see you back here next week, as always, on the Skull Rock Podcast.